This is Del McCoury, and I'm a guitar picker and a singer.
So, when you're up there playing, do you think of Bill at all?
Well, if I do one of his songs, I will, because, see, I recorded a tribute to Bill back in 2011, an album of songs that some I had sang with him when I was working, and others I never heard him sing, period, on a live show anywhere. I'm sure he probably did, but how it is when you do a record, or when you record. He'd been recording since 1939 with the Bluegrass Boys. So, he never done a lot of the songs he put on record.
Yeah.
He never did.
What would he have thought if he had saw you play tonight? What would he have said? What's the first thing he would have said?
Well, I think he would have been proud, because I think he was proud of all the Bluegrass Boys that came through the band and went on to maybe at the time when they left, he was not so happy about that, but
it was always the hub. It was like an airport, you know what I mean? Like, everyone
really
came through there, and
sure, and he had so many musicians through the years, and I tell you, I think he had a good ear for people, even if I don't think he needed to hear them do much till he knew what they could do,
What is it about bluegrass that you love? What sets it apart from other genres?
Well, when I started, the first time my brother taught me to play guitar when I was about 9 years old. And I guess I wasn't really impressed with the guitar. And I heard Earl Scruggs when I was about 11. And that just turned a light on up here that is still burning. But, I played for about 10 years. I got a banjo and I learned to play the forward roll and with like Earl did, and of course nobody's as good as Earl, but we all had to listen to him to start with, because he was the one that popularized the 3-finger roll. And so we all listened. Sonny Osborne did, J.D. Crowe, and we were all three about the same age, so we all listened to Earl, and that's what inspired me.
What does this music mean to you nowadays? I mean, you spent a good chunk of your life dedicating your talents and your time to this music. Yeah. But now that you've brought yourself to this level of known, you're one of the pillars of bluegrass music. What is it like for you these days to play that music? Does it mean anything different than it did when you were starting out?
Well, I think it does. I think it does mean something different. But the thing about it is that I never lost my interest.
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of great musicians that I don't know, they got great and then they lost interest because I don't think they couldn't advance any further, they thought.
Yeah.
And so they lost interest, and I never did lose interest in. But you see, I think I had an unusual career because I started out playing guitar. And then I heard Earl Scruggs, and I played the banjo for 10 years till I got a job with Bill playing banjo.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have given me a job. I went to New York City with him, and he offered me a job picking. And I could play anything he did, rawhide, just all that stuff. I knew it. And I'd played with an ex-bluegrass boy for quite a long time, Jack Cook, and so then, but then it's funny, he changed my career right in the middle. He wanted me to play guitar and sing lead because he needed that worse than anything.
Yeah.
He told me. And so I thought, I don't know if I want to do this, because banjo's all I thought about. Now this is when I'm about 23. And so, but then I thought, well, I'll try it, He said, now if you can make the grade on this, you'll like it better than what you're doing. And I thought, now you're wrong about that, but I didn't tell him.
Yeah.
But it proved that he was right about that, because then when I quit Bill and I had got my own band, I thought, I'm better off playing guitar and singing, because I was used to singing lead and tenor, both. Yeah. I sang like the lead on the verses and tenor on the choruses, because it was easier to find. I couldn't find a tenor singer, really, that was that good. So anyway, I thought it would be better if I stayed with it like this. And then I got interest again, from going from banjo to playing rhythm guitar and runs and singing, and my interest was piqued again, and it's never left me, really.
How do you define bluegrass? What's your definition of it?
It's a great art form. It was something that came along. Those guys in the middle 40s, they invented a style of music, that's... Now, they were influenced too.
Yeah.
When they were young. They were influenced by other people. A
lot of people could say Bill was kind of a rebel when he started out. I mean, he was trying something new, and...
Sure.
And now it's gone into, well, as you're saying, sorry.
It's all right. Well, that like Earl Scruggs, he heard these well, what you call it, music down there in New Orleans. He heard
Cajun music or
the other
Creole.
Well, no, it was the Dixieland.
Dixieland, okay.
He heard these Dixieland tunes on horns, and he thought, "Well, I can play that on this."
Yeah, exactly.
And so he was influenced by that before, and Bill Monroe. Of course, he had a brother duet with his brother Charlie, and they had like an old time duet, which was really good for the day. It really was, but he would go to New Orleans and hear the jazz guys, and he kind of adapted a lot of those things to the mandolin.
They always say they're very closely related genres.
Yeah, they are, and he was nimble enough to play anything that those guys did on the mandolin. So that was a big influence on him, and then his singing was influenced by Jimmy Rogers. His yodeling and all like that. So, and then along comes this lead singer Lester Flatt, who's kind of a
That's when the explosion happened.
A swooner. and they put that out, and Chubby Weiss was a swing fiddler.
Yeah.
And he didn't know a thing about playing. Now, he told me this himself. He said, I didn't know a thing about playing a melody. And when I came in Bill Monroe's band, Bill saw that he was a good fiddle player. Played a pretty tone and all that. And he said, Bill showed me how to play melodies. And he played stuff like Trace Your Little Footprints in the Snow and Blue Moon of Kentucky and all those, And there's where he learned to play.
What sticks out for you the most when you think about Bill? What's a memory or a personality trait or something? What sticks out when you remember him?
I'll tell you about Bill. He was a guy that I was a young man, and I wasn't a good judge of a character or anything like that. But you never knew if he was serious or if he was kidding you.
Yeah.
You never knew that. And I think he wanted it that way.
Yeah. Keep you on your toes, right?
Yeah. And so he was that type of guy, He was, I think in a way he was bashful.
Yeah.
In later years, I figured that out.
Surround himself with people to push up on the stage. You know?
Yeah. He was backward, but he knew he could do what he could do. He knew that was the best, what he did, and his stuff was the best, and he knew that.
What do you see today when some people might say the lines of bluegrass are becoming too blurred?
Well, I think Bill would be proud because of his music, spreading out in all like a lot of the good singers and players today got their training in bluegrass, before they ever went out in these other fields, And he was always good at that. I mean, he always recognized somebody that went on and did something great,
Well, my last question is, you've spent a life performing, touring, creating music, interacting with people of all walks of life and backgrounds, all geographical backgrounds. What has that taught you about what it means to be a human being?
Well, you know what? I learned long ago that everybody is the same. We are all the same. We have all the same people, and in music, they hear things, and rhythm is such a great part of any music. The rhythm, and if the rhythm is good in any band, if it's really good, really tight, it's a lot. Now the singing's got to be good too, but the rhythm and the things that people play, it's got to be good, and I think bluegrass. There's a lot of musicians that, if they can play bluegrass, they can play any music. music.
That's what Peter Rowan told me that Bill told him. Peter Rowan said that Bill Monroe said to him, if you can play bluegrass, you can play anything.
Yeah, well, and I realized that too later, my own self. I thought, now that guy started in bluegrass, and listen to that guy play electric guitar. Yeah. But now I'll tell you another thing, going way back, poor Chuck Berry just passed away, He just heard it just today.
He passed away today?
Just today.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And anyway, Chuck
man.
He would come to the Grand Ole Opry, and it was in the South.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let him in the Opry. So he would go on the back steps of the Opry. There's an old rock steps they built years ago that you go up in the backstage. He would sit there on those steps and listen to Bill Monroe play that mandolin, all that stuff like... he was a teenager.
Yeah.
And he adapted what he heard Bill Monroe doing on that mandolin to that electric guitar that he played. And so did I used to open shows for Jerry Lee Lewis.
Oh, man.
Who was a big rock and roller, and a great entertainer, and could have been a great bluegrass singer. He had that voice that could do anything, And anyway, so I opened a lot of shows for him, and he liked what I did, and so they did a tribute to Jerry Lee up in Cleveland about, 6-7 years ago, and Jerry Lee was there, and usually they wait till somebody dies to do this, but they wanted to do a tribute to him while he was still alive, and he asked if I'd come and sing, and he wanted me to do a couple of his songs they did, so after the show, I did that, and it's funny, I recorded the song that he did back in, I was opening shows for him after he started doing some country.
Yeah.
After he, his rock and roll thing kind of died down. And he had stuff like What Made Milwaukee Famous and things like that, some great songs. And so I recorded one of those, and I recorded that one. So they had for this show now, they had a box seat for Jerry Lee over here. I might be getting off the subject, but
not at all.
He had a box seat over here to our left where he could face the piano player, whoever, had a lot of bands come out. They had piano players and all that. And his cousin, the one that preached, he came and played and sang, and he was good. He was still good. But anyway, so I thought, when he came in, instead of sitting in that box seat, I saw him come in. He come right to the middle and walked right down here and sit right in front of the stage. He was looking up like this at everybody that came on, and I was kind of nervous, because he's so close. And so when I came on, I was talking to him. I just started talking to him. I said, Jerry Lee, now he's the kind of guy has no expression on his face whatsoever.
Like a poker player type of thing?
Just like Bill Monroe.
Yeah.
Same thing. And he's sitting there and looking up at me, and I'm talking to him. And I said, I used to open some shows for you back in the 60s, and he didn't do like this or nothing like that. And he just sat there and listened. And I said, you recorded a song one time, and I liked the song, but I thought it was too short. So I added a verse to it. And I hope you don't mind. And he's still sitting there just looking at me. And so I sang it, What Made Milwaukee Famous, when I recorded it. But I didn't take no credit for that extra verse. Actually, it was a guy in Nashville that wrote it. His name was Glenn Sutton. He wrote the song. And Glenn said, man, if I know you were going to do that, I'd have give you half the credit. But anyway, so at the end of the show then, I just happened to be standing beside the piano when they brought Jerry Lee in, because they said, now we're going to get Jerry Lee to do a whole lot of shaking. That big kid of his, And so at the end of the show, Jerry Lee comes and sits down there at the piano. I'm staying right here. He sat down there, and he went, somewhere over the rainbow. He wanted to do that just because they wanted him to do something else.
Yeah, exactly.
And he went through the whole song. Does it great.